Well, just to start the ball rolling, I thought I'd give you a brief introduction to my kitchen, which is where we are just now. Why my kitchen? Well, as a igneous petrologist by training, I have a number of chopping boards which are made of coarse-grained igneous rocks. A veritable rich cornucopia of coarse-grained igneous rocks. Well, about 4 anyway. Now, it's all very well being in a lab and looking at rocks in hand sample with someone breathing down your neck saying, is it this, is it that, what's this, what's that? It's very different from when you're in the field on your own, faced with a large dot of stuff, trying to work out what it is and give it a name. And of course, it's all about systematic description. So I thought I'd give you a guided tour of my chopping boards to help you on your path to giving an igneous rock a name. Well, here's chopping board number 1. What can we say about it? Well, it's coarse-grained. Let's just move that rule in so you can see it a bit better. There we go. It's coarse-grained with all the grains being greater than about 5 millimeters. The other thing about it is its colour. It's whitish. Okay, so it's got whitish, milky white crystals. They're most likely one of the feldspars. We've also got a greyish, colourless, otherwise material. There's stuff in here. There's a vitreous luster, and that stuff in there, and here is quartz. Okay, so that's a good clue. We've got a rock that contains feldspar and quartz. What else have we got? Well, we've got very dark, black, shiny things like this thing in here, and of course that is mica. That's biotite. Now, on a broken surface, you'd be able to see that with your hand lens because the cleavage would reflect the light. So it's quartz and biotite and feldspar so far. Now, what type of feldspar? Bit of a problem. But with that amount of quartz, the chances are that there's a fair proportion of alkali feldspar in this rock. Now, it's not pink, so it's clearly not the normal, obvious orthoclase, but it could be microcline, a variety of other things. I don't know. I don't have a thin section of this particular rock. Now, just in the centre of that field of view, to the right of the 3 centimetre mark, you can see a large feldspar phenocryst pretty well, and adjacent to it a large patch of quartz. Now, that feldspar is zoned, or it has at least 2 growth zones to it. You can see them picked out by biotite flakes around the inner one, and then the larger one has biotite at one end, but some other kind of feldspar around its rim. Now, I'm referring to this one just in here. Okay. The general morphology of that as well, with its shape at the end here and down here, probably suggests that this is an alkali feldspar. It may well be orthoclase, but it simply isn't pink, so that's a possibility. So a sensible overall name for this, based on the fact that it's got more than about 15% free quartz, quite a lot of feldspar and biotite. Best description for this is some kind of white biotite granite. That will do. I say, it's a bit of a debate as to whether it's porphyritic or not, but you can certainly photograph it or make comments about crystal size. Okay, this is chopping board number 2. One of the things about this is it's noticeably more pink or pinky red than the previous one. That's a clue probably that the feldspar is orthoclase, although it tends to be this kind of colour when the feldspar is quite altered. What else you can see is that there are patches of lightish grey material, like this in here, which is largely quartz, but there are also quite dark patches which are more reflective, which are these in here, which are biotite. Now, this rock is coarse grained, greater than 5 millimeters, contains abundant free quartz, in other words you can see quartz in it. It's got biotite and alkali feldspar. Can't see any evidence of much in the way of plagioclase feldspar, there's no evidence of two feldspars present, so the chances are it's mostly autoclase. So a good name for this would be an alkali granite, for the simple reason that it's dominated by alkali feldspar and is therefore pink. Texturally, it's different from the previous one for the simple reason that it's more equigranular. In other words, all the grains are about the same size and shape. The previous white granite had some evidence of crystals that were slightly larger, which you might even call phenocrysts. So that's number 2, an alkali granite. Okay, number 3, an altogether more uniform grained, and in fact slightly finer grained sample than the previous 2, but the mineralogy isn't very much different. Most of the milky material, or slightly greenish material, that's reflecting the light, which of these in here, are feldspars again. I have a thin section of this, so I happen to know that quite a lot of this is microcline. You can't tell that really satisfactorily in the field. There's also glassy, rather transparent material, which is anhedral, in other words it lacks shape, and that is largely quartz, and it also has some very small flecks of biotite within it. There's also a hint of some plagioclase feldspar, which is a different colour, which is kind of this milky white thing in here. Plagioclase feldspar is subordinate to the alkali feldspar. So again, this would be a granite sensu stricto. It's got abundant free quartz, more than about 15-20%, and it contains biotite. In all granites you can always add the noticeable micas to the name of the granite. So a biotite alkali granite, or a biotite granite, or whatever. Okay, so the micas can be important. It's normally quite obvious if a granite contains 2 micas, because you'll be able to see quite easily the difference between muscovite and biotite in the field in hand sample.